Shut up and sit down.
It's where the big boys play. SICW.
This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, okay.
Ask you, shall
Now we are being recorded.
Well, you
Hey,
may as well
pound
count
this
it
in,
in.
Well, thank God they didn't hear what I said a minute ago.
It'll stay in the back room. Well,
How
it's
you all
February
doing?
Podcast, everybody, episode number 118. Today we have a special guest, Justine Race, the son of Harley Race, an 8-time world champion.
How you doing,
Hey.
Justin?
NWA.
I'm doing great, guys. How are you doing?
Not too
Pretty
bad.
good.
I see my big Tex over there. See Bobby down there. My word, we're full house here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is the normal crew on the podcast. Yeah, we've been doing a bunch of podcasts this year. We had Travis Orndorff on here. We had,
Nice kid.
Crush's son was on here. So yeah.
The Crusher's son?
Well, no, Crush from Demolition or
okay. All right. I thought you said Crusher. I'm like, be his grandson, wouldn't it?
So it's a thrill for us to have you. You should have been our first guest, mainly for everything that your dad's done for where we live in the St. Louis area. I know he was based out of Kansas, but man, he was over here in St. Louis a lot, and me and Bobby both got to see him quite a few times.
Cool.
So yeah,
At
definitely.
the Keel and Checkerdome.
Well, even Herb Simmons bringing him in and having him run some angles in his promotion too.
Oh, okay, with WOW, yeah.
Like my old partner Waco, we used to be a tag team, and there was one night that we were a little heelish that night, and your father had to put a stop to it and punched Waco out, and so it was pretty fun getting the meet and talk with your dad. So it's always cool. It was always cool.
Well, in Dad's words, if you're in the ring with him, you better listen to me.
Well, I remember the fans, the wrestlers in the locker room, all saying that he killed them.
Oh yeah.
Waco did not listen, and he paid.
Oh no. That was one of the reasons that my father carried the NWA title for so long, and on every continent except Antarctica. Who he was the first champion and the only champion to ever do that still. And he could have found a penguin, he'd have went down to Antarctica and wrestled a penguin. But he's go ahead.
What was the longest stint that he held it? I know 2 years, but I don't know if he would be gone 2 years.
I don't know. I never kept track of dates and stuff like that. I kept track of times. And let me think. So in 1983, he won the 7th title. I can't remember, to tell you the truth.
Jim's our historian. Hey, Jim, how long did Harley retain the belt for continuously?
What was his longest?
The longest time? Oh, the longest time? I think it was between his 3rd and 4th or 4th and 5th title runs, wasn't it?
I'm not too sure what his longest time period was, but
I was a kid, so it seemed like decades to me.
Right.
Yeah.
The great thing that I love about his first 2 title runs is the first one, Dory Funk Jr. was kind of dodging the NWA. And so the NWA actually sent your father down to Texas and told him not to come back without the title by any means necessary. And your dad, was a shooter, he can legitimately hurt you and force you to tap or basically do whatever he wanted.
He could do that till the day he died.
I heard about his he was able to crush things so easily with his hands,
including my hands.
Oh.
I say
I
I'd
gave,
always
I
heard
well,
like
yeah, I had to be an idiot. I was, I'm figuring, well, he's in a wheelchair, and I mean, I don't want to talk nonchalantly about my dad's health failing, but I'm his son, and you see this progress through the years or whatever.
Yeah.
And sitting there one time, and I don't even, I think we were sitting outside his office or whatever. And I looked down, I said, "Old man, I got to try one more time." And he
Oh my
put it,
God.
he said, "Give it your best shot, son."
Oh my God.
And he had me tiptoeing down the sidewalk.
I'd say I'd always heard like even in his later days that WLW he would be trying to teach some of the kids stuff and they wouldn't listen and he would get off that damn walker, get in that ring, slam them around a few times, I'll do it like that and get back out. Like barely walk, but he'll get in there,
It,
slam some people around if needed.
it was very similar to any one of his wrestling matches. I mean, he whether it was, and God bless his soul, Hulk Hogan. We need to pay a little honor to that man.
Mm-hmm.
Like him or not, he was a phenomenon. And
Yeah, I have a few questions
my father and
about that
him,
one.
we're friends, but we'll work on to that. Um, well, now where I forgot where I was.
You're gonna talk about your dad getting up in the ring. Well, I'll tell you what. So his first title reign, he beat Dory Funk Jr. and brought the title back to
Oh
the.
yeah, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yep, and
Well, one
then
of the reasons that he had long title runs. I mean, he might drop it to Tommy Rich or Dusty for a couple days or a week or something, but he'd get it back. Was because they knew, and this is what I was talking about the continents. They knew that no matter where they sent my father, no matter who, whatever country had throw some big guy in there, whatever, who knows. They knew that he would come home with a world title. If someone was stupid enough to shoot on him, they were just going to get hurt.
I like
And
Arn
so,
Anderson, but your dad was the real enforcer.
yeah. Well, they sent Dad the NWA. Well, I mean, they always talk about the NWA and the committee and the board and all this kind of stuff. That was all well and good, but after the NWA board made a decision, they called Mr. Race to ask him if that was the right decision. If he said no, then everyone changed their mind.
oh wow, I mean
So
that's when you know you got the stroke.
well, I mean, he made so many guys and made so much money for those men by
Yeah,
making other guys that
that's true.
this is where he earns this respect. You hear about the respect he has in the business. This is where that comes from, is doing things like that, putting guys over that couldn't. I mean, you're looking at David there. Is that David?
And
No,
David,
I think
Oh, is that
that's
no,
Kevin?
yeah,
No,
that's
that's
Kevin there.
Kevin.
no,
No,
Oh,
no, it is David. It is David.
no, it's
I
David.
don't even have my glasses on. I could tell.
Yeah.
That's David. All right, I got a good story about David. Um, I was a little kid. I was with mom, and we were on tour with my dad in Japan. And a famous referee named Joe Higuchi was the chief referee and one of the best referees ever to be in the sport. But he was my buddy when I mean, I'm 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever. And he was my buddy. Well, he wasn't there one day. I mean, he had something else going on. He always took me around shopping and buy toys and whatever, so my mom and dad could do their thing. And one day, they were taking off, and Joe wasn't there, and we came down the lobby, and David was standing there. Hey, watch my kid for a couple hours, will you? All right. I mean, he's not gonna tell him no. So, so David took me out, and he said, "You want to win some money?" And again, 8, 9 years old, something like that. Yeah, something like that. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm going to take you to Pachinko." Oh,
What's
what's
that?
Pachinko? Well, Pachinko is a vertical slot machine slash pinball machine, but
Oh wow.
you win money. The balls drop down through all these things, and where they hit, you win money.
Oh
Well,
okay.
I mean, it's gambling.
Uh-huh.
So David walks in there with a, let's say, 8-year-old little boy. And who's going to tell David Von Erich in Japan? No.
Right.
So we went in and I won, I will never forget, I won $27. And David looked at me horrified. He's like, how the hell are we going to tell your father about this? You're not even supposed to be here. And I said, and then he said, tell you what, Justin, I mean, I'm a little kid. I'm thinking, but I'm not, thinking as an adult. And he says, you know what? I'm going to keep the money for you. And if you want to go buy something, just come up and tap me and I'll give you some money. You go buy it. I said, okay. So I went and my parents wondered why I had candy or this or that or whatever. Oh, well, somebody bought it for me because they were just shoveling me my money. So after I spent my $24, he said, that's the end of your money. And he looked at me and he winked. And it was it was a wink like, we got him. He just was, I mean, he got Harley race with his son and he was proud.
That's awesome. Uh, so your dad's second title reign, which what I was getting at earlier, was so cool because his first one he beat Dory Funk Jr. His second one he actually beat Terry Funk, and that's when I was reading all the stats about your father over the last couple of weeks, I was like, very rare. I think the Funks and the Briscoes were the only ones that both brothers won that title. I'm not too sure if Jerry won the.
No, Jerry never did.
Okay.
Jack did.
So I think the Funks are
But
the only ones.
Dad beat all of them.
Right, yeah. Well, definitely here in St. Louis, the Briscoes was a mainstay, the Funks, and definitely your dad. So, yeah.
I mean, you grow up in an environment like I did where, we travel. One thing that I'll always be grateful for is when Dad when he won the championship the second time, I believe it was 1977. And that's when the NWA and all the bosses, they had their man. They could send him anywhere in the world and he's coming back with that belt. In fact, after he was out of the ring, they used to send my dad over to Japan with Flair to make sure the belt came back.
Yeah.
Because if Inoki or somebody or some Japanese guy tried to shoot on Flair and was about to beat him, my dad was sitting in the front row of every match Flair had. And if something went wrong, Dad was going in that ring, suit, tie, and all, to make sure that NWA belt came back to Kansas or came back to USA.
I was reading a story earlier today, and they sent your dad up to Chicago, and he was going to have a dog collar match. And it got wind to him that promoter and that wrestler was going to do a double cross. And as soon as the guy got in the ring with your dad and got the dog collars in, he was going to wrap your dad up in the chain. And the thing with the dog collar match, at least back in the day, you have to hit each top turnbuckle, all four corners, and that's how you win.
I know, yeah.
So as soon as your dad got wind of it, and as soon as that guy came into the ring, your dad wrapped the chain around his neck and dragged him to each corner post and won the match and got out of there.
Yeah. Well, actually, something happened before then. I can't. That's a long time ago. Something happened to where Dad left the ring for some reason or another, but he didn't take the collar off, and he drug what's his nuts all the way back into the dressing room, beat the shit out of him in the dressing room, then brought him back out because he was trying to shoot on my dad, and that's like, well, we're not having this. We're not going to have it in the ring. Then I'll have it in the dressing room.
Right.
We beat the shit out of him in the dressing room, dragged him by the chains back out to the ring, and dragged him four corners and touched and won.
So let me actually start you over again. What was your first recognition of your dad being the world heavyweight champion? Well, when did you figure out who your dad was? About 5 or 6?
Like when you realize he's a star and not just dad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a progression.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 5, 6 years old or whatever. I mean, Dad won his first title in 1973. It was in May, so I was 2. I would have been 3 in October. So, so, it was, it was, surreal, really.
Yeah, I bet it is. When did you find out that he was special though? When he
Well,
was, how did
it was
you
kind
put
of,
two and two
it was,
together?
well, it was a progression of going to matches. My mom and dad had this little thing worked out where they had a code, if it's just going to be a wrestling match or a bloodbath. And obviously, if he was wrestling Brody or Abdullah or Abby or whatever, Mom and I were going to the movies that night or to Putt Putt or something. Um, but there were mistakes made, and sometimes matches got out of hand. So, I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, seeing my dad with, blood flying everywhere and hitting over the head with chairs and this and that, and I'm screaming and yelling and crying, and my mom has to take me out of the arena and calm me down and didn't let me run to the dressing room after the match is over to make sure my dad's okay. I mean, that was traumatic
I
for a
bet.
kid.
Yeah.
Later in life, you go to like a whatever, and they ask you, did you ever have any traumatic events when you were a child? And I'd say, well, besides watching my dad get the shit kicked out of him 5 or 6 nights a week, I might have been in a car wreck. So
So
yeah, I'm like someone like that. They don't even know what to do. They don't. Oh, you just go on to someone else.
right, right, right.
They don't
Next
even know
person,
what to
please.
deal with that. Yeah, next question.
Did your dad always take you around wherever he was, or did he
Oh
leave you
yeah.
at
Well,
home for a
I
little?
was alluding to that earlier. The promoters in 1977 when they decided that Dad was going to be champion for a while, and they were going to send him all over the world to promote wrestling. I mean, there's 180 million people in Japan that love wrestling. Why not tap the market?
Right.
So, he was bent on such a schedule that no one could take it. He did. He did though. But the promoters saw what he was willing to do to make a broomstick look like a great wrestler and the bumps he was willing to take just to get an audience, just to get an audience up, just get him clapping, whatever,
Yeah.
or hating him. He was good at making people hate him. Um, but that was it. I mean, that's how he worked.
Yeah. Was it not Gerald Briscoe? What's his brother's name?
Yeah. Jack.
Jack. They said that that's the reason why Jack kind of gave up being the champion is because he got tired of all the travel, got tired of
Yeah.
missing his family, and
Well, again, I'm trying to get back to this. When Dad took the belt from Terry in was it Toronto in 1977, I believe.
77. You're right on the
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. In fact, talk about real wrestling and whatever. After that, Dad won with a submission, Indian Deathlock,
Yes.
and I was still, as you were alluding to, I was still in that trying to figure all this stuff out stage. And I was sitting in the back of the car when we were leaving the arena, and I heard my mom. She leaned over and whispered to my dad, "Did you break Terry's leg?" And Dad didn't say a word. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, it's mom and dad talking about dad breaking someone's leg, and it's legal, and he gets paid for it. And I'm in the back going, "What the hell? How do you get paid to break someone's leg?" Um, but I don't think he did. But anyway, there's just little things like that. But the promoters all around the world after 1977, whether it was Shonai Baba, Ron Miller in Australia, well, Sam, Eddie Graham, or whatever. They knew they were going to put my dad through that, and they were going to make him travel that much and work 300 plus days a year, an hour every time. Then, and he's a family man. Then he was going to have his family with him. So the promoters, again, be it, Bubba, Ron Miller from Australia, wherever, Europe, all over the country, flew my mom and I with him.
That's nice. It's kind of unheard of too. So it's
Yeah, it was, I mean, nobody, I mean, I was the kid that was always in the dressing room, but no one cared.
yeah.
Well, A, because who's going to tell Harley to tell his son to leave the dressing room? But second of all, I mean, I grew up with a bunch of 300 to 550 pound uncles. I mean, when I
It
was
took a
in the
gambling.
wrestling room, well, I was in the wrestling room. They were my friends. They were my big brothers. They were my uncles. They were whatever. I mean, they taught me how to play cribbage. We goofed around. Dad would go out to wrestle. He'd look over at Brody or anybody. Yeah, Tommy, Dynamite Kid. He look, hey, watch my kid while I'm out here. And
Yeah.
so they
Now,
would, and I'd have imagine having Bruiser Brody as your babysitter.
now you said they taught you cribbage. Can you beat Bob Orton?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know.
That's a multi-time champion at CAC.
Yeah, I know he is. I know he is. Well, I haven't played cribbage. You know how hard it is to find people that play cribbage in the normal world?
That's true.
You got to find a wrestling dressing room if you're going to want to play, or go to Great Britain if you're going to play cribbage.
I actually have 2 cribbage boards at my house.
Oh
Do you
my
really?
God.
My wife likes it.
I still have the one that my dad carried around in his wrestling bag
That's
Oh
cool.
wow.
with the little two little blue
Hmm.
men and 2 red men, and
Yep.
the track that it opened, and you got the men out and closed it. Yeah, because I mean, he always made me feel important. He was a really cool dad. I mean, a really cool dad. I look back and I'm like, man, I hope I can. I hope that my children appreciate me so much as I do him, because he was just cool. And he assigned me. He actually called me Dr. Race in the dressing room, and I was in charge of his medicine kit. I
Uh,
was in charge of bandages. I was in charge of pain pills. I knew more about pain pills and all that kind of crap before I was 10 years old, more than a doctor. And I was in charge of these little things. So he'd go out and work, and I'd hang out with Brody or somebody. And he'd come back, and I'd ascertain he's bleeding here, bleeding there, whatever. And I'd, Dad, here's the gauze, and I'd hand him his stuff. Sorry, I hand him his stuff out of his medicine kit, and I'd hand him bandages and his painkiller. And, he called me Dr. Race.
that's kind of
Dr.
cool.
Race, I'm gonna need one of those medium pain pills.
How many times did your dad take you over with him to Japan?
Oh God, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 times. A lot of
Nice.
times.
So
Starting in 1976, I think was the first time I went there. And I guess, I guess I have to include, after I graduated from college, I went to school in Japan for a year, to a university there.
I think I remember you saying that. There
Yeah,
was a
and learned.
store that you were that I don't know if it was at the CACs or where I heard you speak. It might have been at the CACs last year, or the year before, when you were doing one of those seminars. But you told a story about Japan, and I think was it something got broken or something was missing, and you were a little kid. I swear it was you.
Something. I mean, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about.
Something in the emperor's room or the building
Oh,
broke.
well, yeah. Dad was the first American to be invited to the emperor's palace to have tea
There we
with the emperor and the empress. And I write about this in my book. Don't Tell Your Mother. It's quite a long chapter, but
go.
um, well, in essence, basically, he was invited, and of course, he's not going anywhere without my mom and I. One thing good about being, an only child with my dad was, if I'd have had 5 or 6 brothers and sisters, we wouldn't have traveled like we did or whatever. Having one child that was used to the business, that was grown up, that could stay awake to have dinner at 10:30 at night when they're 4 or 5 years old, and your mom and dad are kicking you under the table trying to keep you awake. You got your cute little bow tie on, and they're talking about some contract for him doing advertising for something, and I'm just sitting there. Yeah, So, um, oh, what was your original question? I'm sorry.
You're telling the
If
story of
we,
going to the Emperor's Palace.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so we get invited in the limos, like security limousine, whatever, take us in, and we go to the. I mean, now I'd been to the palace before, like on the tourist thing and whatever, so I'd seen some of the gardens and whatever, but this was totally different. This was like going to the White House to meet, the president.
right.
You go through several batches of security. They search you up and down, even though they're big fans of my father. They're still searching him, and
Yeah,
it's their
just in
job.
case. Yeah.
Well, it's their job, and they did it well. So anyway, we finally get in there, and I'll shorten all this up. So we finally get in there, and we walk into this big, ornate, huge, beautiful room, and the emperor and the empress are there, and we're, it's all formal, and they introduce my father and my mother, and they do through all this, and I'm standing there just shaking whoever's hand I'm supposed to, and the emperor leaned over and said something to me. Of course, he spoke immaculate English. He leaned
Wow.
over and said something to my dad, and then he said something to some of the security guys, and then out loud he said, "Your son doesn't want to sit here and have tea with us. Let him go look at the palace."
That's brave.
And yeah, and so the security guards kind of came beside me, like ready to walk me out. My dad looked at me and said, "Don't break anything." I was like, "No, okay, whatever." So and I defined it in my book. It's kind of like the Kevin McAllister when he found out no one was home and he was home alone. But I was running around the palace and seeing all this cool stuff. And yeah, I broke something. And when we came back, and the guys, the security guard whispered something to the emperor, or whispered something to the emperor's assistant, who whispered to the emperor. And he kind of chuckled. He leaned over and told my father something. My father looked up at me, and I was like, "Oh shit." Um, yeah, at 7 or 8, whatever years old. Oh shit. And so the emperor gets up, and they're concluding their meeting, whatever. And I'm just nervous. I'm like, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. And we start moving toward the outside out portion of this room, and the emperor looks over at my dad, and he said, "Don't worry, Mr. Race, it was a fake. Do you know how many real things my kids have broke in here?" And my dad kind of smiled. And he looked over at me and he chuckled and shook his head. And
That's
don't tell your
awesome.
mother. And don't tell your mother. And we got in the the fun. I think the funniest part of the story was we got in the cab or in the limo to drive back to the hotel. And Dad doesn't talk very much. He doesn't say anything. Finally, he turns to my mom and I. He says, "God, I hate tea." That's all he had to say about the whole thing.
Oh,
Not
that's
meeting the
funny.
Emperor of Japan or anything like that. He hates tea.
I mean, you're not going to turn down tea with the Emperor, though.
No, he mustered through it.
Now, I've told this story
Well, and
about
they
you.
have these little cups that the Japanese are fine with. But
Oh yeah,
the funniest thing, I mean, my dad was funny enough with these cups. You haven't seen Andre.
yeah. Did you get to hang out with Andre a lot?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, Andre was Uncle Andre to me in the '70s.
Oh,
He
that
used to
is
come.
great.
Yeah, he came in town, and he would come in town and stay with us at our house. We had a room in our home when I grew up. It was called the Giant Room, and
Oh,
it was for Bubba and Andre
huh.
when they came in town. It was a plus size California king bed, extra long. The room was the size of a racquetball court.
Man.
And they had closets and stuff that would fit Andre's 58 size shoes and Bubba's 37 size shoes or whatever the hell they were. So yeah, Andre used to come in and spend, he'd come in town even when he wasn't working. Um, just to, well, he liked hanging out with my mom and I and my dad, but dad also took him to a yeah, how interesting. We got a match of Bob, dad and Andre right there.
Nate's pretty quick at things.
Yeah, how about that? So anyway, Andre would come in town and he'd go to there's a clothier here in Kansas City that big and tall that they made clothes for Andre because
Oh,
he
really?
obviously wasn't buying from the rack. I mean, back then, I mean,
Right.
nowadays they have 6XL or whatever on the rack, but that wouldn't fit Andre either. He so dad when he knew dad, oh, he just body slammed him on that concrete.
Yeah, I always read that
Can you
Andre had a
rewind that?
massive crush with him.
Did you I don't know if you can rewind that, but there's a point in that slam when Andre's hand is down, almost touching the ground, and Dad still has him up here. That's how big Andre was. But Dad realized that if he put him down, Andre was going to rip right there. Andre would rip his own arm off.
Oh, yeah.
So on the way down, Dad held him for a second. So you're talking about picking up 550 pounds and then throwing it down, but stopping and holding it for a second. So Andre could get watch it closely. So Andre can get his arm out of the way. See him? See Dad
Yeah.
pull Andre's arm out of the way? Or Andre would have ripped his own arm off.
You got hurt in the
So
process too.
that is strength. Picking him up, body slamming him. Yeah, a lot of guys do that. Pick him up, body slam him, but stop in the middle.
The
That's
funny
strength.
thing about that is, this happened maybe 6 years, maybe 7 years before Hulk
This
Hogan
was
did it.
19. Yeah, this was in Houston in 1979.
And,
Dad body
it's
slammed
weird and
Andre in
funny to me.
78.
It's weird and funny to me that nothing truly happens unless it happened on WWE TV. Like the body slam heard around the world. Hogan body slams onto the giant, but yet on multiple occasions, your dad did it first.
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, one of the technology can piss you off, and sometimes it's good. And in a way, and it was what 5, 6 years ago, I started noticing, people recognizing me or talk about my dad or whatever, and then I get 25-year-old kids, they find out who I am, and they come up, your dad's my favorite wrestler. I'm like, you weren't even born when he retired. Heck, he was retired a long time before you were born. And they say YouTube, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh. And so over the last several years, I've noticed that old school wrestling is really coming back. The kids that grew up with Hogan and whatever, or even older than that, kids that were born in the 2000 whatever, they watched the product, on TV, and then they YouTube a guy named Harley Race, and they watch him wrestle a guy named Terry Funk. And one of the great, what Steve Stone Cold said was one of the greatest wrestling, a clinic in wrestling when Dad wrestled Terry in Toronto when he won the second world title. You don't see matches. They don't know. A match tells a story, and they don't
Yes.
know how to tell a story now. They don't know how to be, that you've got the antagonist and the protagonist, you've got the climax, you've got the build up, you've got a match tells a story. And guys
Hmm.
today are more interested. I mean, not all of them. Now, Roman Reigns, I like him. He's an old school guy. He's younger, but I mean, he's old school style.
Yes.
But you can't,
So
they just don't get it.
the
Yeah.
funny thing is I like to do some research, and I always like to make sure I hit all the bullet points. And I was on the internet today,
Hmm.
and I was typing into Google, and I'll tell you, I'm a YouTuber. I love watching YouTube. I would
Hmm.
prefer that over TV any day. But so I'm on Google, and I things that you should know about Harley Race. And this I have it wrote
You
down.
Google that?
Yes, just for shits and grins.
No, it's
Uh,
fine.
so
I mean,
there's
you have to understand that I mean, I've only known this business all of my life as far as, my father. It's not like he was an insurance salesman and then became a professional wrestler. But it just cracks me up sometimes. It's so surreal to think, every once in a while I'll someone will send me a clip or whatever of him wrestling with the blonde hair, and he was probably
Oh yeah,
20. And I look at it and you watch it and it's cool. And then I really think about it. I'm like, that's my father.
yeah.
It's kind
That'd
of
be trippy.
every once in a while, it just kind of gets you. It's just like, or someone will met, I'll be up at my apartment complex. I'll be in the pool and I'll hear across the pool, "Hey, when did your dad wrestle?" And I'm like, "Who the hell are you? And how'd you know?" And then, where's the sound? It's just, it's been, I can say that my father provided me with a blessed life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I've
But
been blessed with nice parents. I've been blessed with parents that cared, that dad wasn't going to do it unless those promoters paid him enough to fly my mom and I with him because he wasn't going.
that, yeah, see, that's just awesome. But
I
let
mean,
me let me
he
get
was
back to
the
this.
gentlest man on earth.
Let me get
Big
back to this
teddy bear.
because I really
Yeah.
it joked me up inside, cracked me up inside. There's this website called the Sportster,
Yeah,
and
I've seen it.
I kid you not. Now I know uh, your dad's accolades. I studied your dad. I've read everything that I could read on your dad, and I have a great story about me and your dad having a great conversation that I'll talk about later. But so Sportster lists the top 10 things you should know about Harley Race, and literally only one of them talks about his NWA days. The other 9 is
None
all
of them was about me, right?
WWE. None of it was about you.
Okay, thank God.
But
Something
your
about his
dad's.
kid breaking stuff in the palace.
No, you don't tell the world that your son broke something in the Japanese palace. That's
But
something you keep
I
in your
thought that
house.
was so funny that your dad's bulk of his career was working for the NWA, working for the
Mhm.
territories, working for the WCW, which is still was part of the NWA at that point in time. But their top 10, 9 of them is all WWE related or WWF at the time related. Now, I grant you
Well,
some of these.
who's the author?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. It's just on a website.
A
But
lot of people think, unfortunately, that wrestling began in 1984 when Hulkamania began. It's like, no, there's a reason. And I, again, all my blessings to his family, my prayers to his family, Nick and Brooke, and well,
oh, and Hulk,
all
yes.
the, yeah, I mean, all my prayers to them. But again, the guy didn't know a wristwatch from a wrist lock.
It's
And that,
funny how
that's coming right out of my dad's mouth.
you hear so many stories since he's passed, the good, the bad, the negative, and it's crazy. You know, he was my kid idol growing up, and I tell the story because my father looked like him. My father was going bald on the top. He kept his hair long. So and he
Did he call you brother?
So he was like you in junior high.
yeah, he was like me in junior high. But he swung a hammer, so his arms were just huge. He
Oh
swung a
yeah.
hammer all day.
Yeah, yeah.
But growing up as a kid, it was St. Louis Wrestling and WWF. So I knew both. It's just I guess I leaned towards Hulk Hogan because to me he was my dad. Uh, but your
Well,
dad did have a nice spell in the WWF because he had quite a few things. He won King of the Ring in '86. He was in the
well,
first. Where was it? Oh, I had it written down, but now I can't read my damn handwriting. Ain't that something? First ever Survivor Series. It was his team versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan's team, and
I just
both
talked to Jim the other day.
did you?
Yeah.
Both team members actually got disqualified, and the rest of their team had to wrestle while they got sent to the back because they brawled to the outside and then got counted out. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
had a great feud with Hulk Hogan in the WWF, which
Well,
actually,
let me tell you a little. This is well, this is what I'm here for. This is what happens in the backstage. We flew into, I believe it was New Jersey. Dad was wrestling Hogan at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Well, we, get off the plane, go, and Dad's wrestling bag didn't come through down the baggage carriage or whatever. So he didn't have a
oh,
wrestling bag. That happened once when he had the 10 pounds of gold in it, and it was a little different. We were there
I bet.
signing forms and whatever for hours. But his bag, he ended up getting it back. Anyway, this time, so, he's like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to wrestle in here. And there's a limo there to take us to the Meadowlands. So we go to the Meadowlands, and mom goes and she sits out front with like wives and whatever. And I'm always back in the dressing room. I always thought it was just fun back there with those guys. And they'd all know me since I was a little boy. So,
Right.
um, so he's telling some of the guys, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna wrestle. What the hell? I guess I'll just go out there and wrestle in this suit, my cowboy boots, and beat the hell out of someone with my cowboy boots. And Hogan overheard this, and this was right the height of Hulkamania. Hogan's voice all of a sudden booms through the locker room backstage. You could hear him a mile away. Anybody who isn't wrestling, go to the airport and find the boss's luggage.
Oh, wow. That is awesome.
And everyone left. There was all that was in the room was wrestlers. Everyone left and went to the airport, and they found it. But that Hogan and McMahon called my father the boss or the king
you know,
backstage because they knew he could beat the living crap out of either one of them if he wanted to.
so Nate has a question for you. Since we're talking about your dad and Hulk Hogan, Nate, what was that question you ran by me earlier?
Well, it was more in regards to most recently the Sportster, since Hogan has passed away, was that story that I don't believe ever happened in Kansas City, where your dad left the venue he was at, went and then pulled a gun on Terry Hogan when he came out of the bathroom. But in 2000, your dad told that story completely, saying that no, he was in the dressing room talking to both the Funks, walked in, slapped him on the rib cage. Hogan turned around, fell down into a chair, and said, "I thought when I saw you again, you would have a machine gun." And your dad says, "No, but I have a little gun," and turned and walked out. Why do you think places like the Sportster and all these other places still propagate that lie, where he pulled a gun on and put it in Hogan's ribs, when your dad said it was only a slap?
If it bleeds, it leads. They're just trying to keep something going that never happened. I mean,
So-
yeah, dad walked in there and he was pissed, and the whole dressing room went completely quiet. I mean, and yes, it was in Kansas City, but no, my dad was not wrestling in Kansas City at the same time. They, New York just kind of came in on his territory, so he went there and he went in the dressing room, and just like you can see right there, Hogan wants no part of my father. I guarantee you that. And so he went in, and Terry's facing away from him, and all the dressing room just went quiet when Dad walked in. And he walked up behind Terry and hit and some open hand slapped him so hard on the rib cage that he knocked him over. So Terry's down on the ground. He turns around ready to, beat the hell out of who did this to me or whatever. He turns around, sees my father, and he's sitting on his butt on the floor and just starts backpedaling or the shower anywhere. He was just on his ass, just backpedaling, trying to get away from him. And Dad just kind of looked around the dressing room and said, "I made my point," and left. And that was the story. People say he set the ring on fire and all. I'm like,
I've heard
I'm
that
still
too.
trying to figure out how do you set a ring on fire? I mean, unless you
Well,
have a gallon of gasoline to throw on the canvas, what is flammable in a ring? Plywood? I mean, how do you set a ring on fire? So
Yeah,
I get a kick out of that when people ask me that. I'm like, no, he didn't set the ring on fire. No, he didn't pull a gun on Hogan. He didn't need to. Hogan was scared to death of it. He didn't need a
Well,
gun.
especially then, because your dad said Vince and Hogan cost him $750,000 that year.
Hmm. Yeah, he did. Yeah, they did.
That's a lot. That's enough to be upset about in the 80s. Well, hell, now it would be upsetting too.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, it was upsetting, but my dad was, again, my
it was his
father,
territory.
my father left school when he was in the ninth grade. He didn't leave voluntarily. He was kicked out of school because he knocked the principal out.
Oh my.
So you're talking about a man that started professional wrestling 2 weeks before he turned 16 years old. So by the time that picture you see with him looking at Hogan, he'd been wrestling about 30 years. He
and,
kind of knew what he was doing.
and not Hulk Hogan's style of wrestling either.
No, he didn't put up with that shit. He said, "You drop that leg on me one more time, I'm gonna shove it up your ass."
So,
But that's all he knew.
This is a funny story. He told Rick that too. Rick, the old dome globe, has a dent in the
uh-huh.
in the globe part. Well,
Yeah.
that dent is from my father's head.
Oh wow.
Rick hit Dad over the head with that belt and dented that stainless steel. And we're sitting back in the dressing room, and Dad's looking at him. So he's normally bleeding from the forehead, but he's bleeding from like back in his head, somewhere in here. And he's looking at himself. He turns around. Rick's on the other side of the dressing room. He turns around. He's, Ricky, you hit me over the head with that belt one more goddamn time, I'm gonna shove it up your ass. He never got hit with the belt again.
Weird.
Now, during this during this stint that your father went against Hogan a lot, is when your dad got really hurt,
Mm.
going through a table, injuring, well, giving your dad a hernia that kind of plagued him for quite some time.
Actually, it totally. He went through a metal. Hogan was like, those old 8-foot tables with the laminate or whatever, and the like the
Like the
um
little steel around it.
yeah, with the little wrap around whatever 8-foot tape, with the
Mhm.
faux wood finish and whatever. Well,
Yeah.
they have a 4-inch metal band that goes around the inside of them to keep them up. Well, Dad had Hogan laid out on the table, and he went for a headbutt, which he uh, the headbutt and him
Yeah.
didn't get along very well later in life. But Hogan moved, and Dad went through the table, and which was okay. But when he like propped himself to get off the table, that metal that he didn't break the metal, he bent it. It snapped back and hit him underneath the belly button, and
Ooh.
destroyed part of his large intestines.
Damn.
So he finished the match, and he came home, and he was okay. Didn't say anything to me. And I walked into I was older than by then. I walked into my apartment one day, and my dad was laying in front of my TV, like in a fetal position, out like. And I, first thing I do is check pulse. He's alive. Call 911. They got him to the hospital, and they said that his large intestines had a big hole in it and had been leaking basically poison into his body. Because
Yeah.
that's the stuff, in your large intestine. That's stuff you're supposed to get rid of, not
Right.
eat. And he's leaking it all into his. So he had, it was a year of surgeries and hundreds of stitches and one colostomy bag, then two colostomy bags on either side, because he was just his intestines was destroyed. But he came back, and he came back well.
Yeah. I mean,
He wasn't worried about hurting himself again or blowing out his intestines again. He was worried about not really being able to wrestle again.
wow. I mean,
And
that's
he when he came back, he had something to prove. And it
now
was that Harley race was still Harley race.
right, and hands down, I don't think
When I
anyone.
walked in and seeing your father, you think is dead lying there on the floor. After growing up all those years, seeing him hit with chairs and blood and belts and bells and anything else. Good God. One match with Dad and Nick Bockwinkel and Brody and Stan Hansen in Japan. Dad and Brody, when they were in the second balcony, still going at it, throwing chairs, whatever. Brody leaves the scene. You know, you watch the cameraman, you can't find Brody. All of a sudden, Brody comes back out. He's got a mop and a wooden handle on it. And he
Oh,
hit my dad over the head with the wooden handle of the mop. Of course, the handle shatters everywhere. And
yeah.
I'm thinking, what did he find? The janitor's closet and pull the map out, the mop out? It's like, did he just go looking around back there for things to hit my father with?
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, so when I was talking about the story that I have with your father, um, it was at a Herb's show, SICW,
Mhm.
and in this one building, it has our locker room, and then it has a small little like office inside the locker room, and it has a huge table, and that's where Herb and Larry Matisek would sit down and write the night's program sheet. And your father was sitting with them, and they get up. Your dad stays there. Larry and Herb, they go start the show. And of course, your dad's the special guest, so he just stays back there until he's called upon.
Mhm.
And none of the local wrestlers, they weren't going to interrupt your dad. They weren't going to go in there and maybe say hi from the door or something. But I, I've got to pick brains. I've got to, talk to the legends. And so I go back there and I sit down with your dad, and I said, I've been reading up a lot about you, and we talked about, his wrestling past and everything. And I said, where is your favorite place to wrestle? And if you could tell me why, and he told me his favorite place to wrestle was Japan, and it's because the audience is dead silent, and you got to be a master of your craft to get the reaction that you want at the end of your match. And he said when he first went over there, kind of freaked him out a little bit because of course, he's not used to that American wrestling. You cheer and yell and scream throughout the
Well, and
whole
also
thing.
you got to realize when they first started going over there in the 60s, that was only 20 years after we dropped a bomb on them.
Yeah, that's true too. I didn't even think
So
about
when
that.
my dad was invited to the Emperor's Palace, when we went to the Emperor's Palace for tea and I went to break things, um, that was 30 years after World War II. That was 30 years after 1945 or whatever. You know what I mean? We 30 years earlier, we had dropped two bombs on their country.
Yeah,
So before George H. Herbert W's father, George Bush, and George Brett, actually of the Kansas City Royals, went to Japan after my father and were invited to the Emperor's Palace. But my dad was the first American to invited to the Emperor's Palace after World War II.
yeah, that's an amazing.
That took
Uh,
guts on both half. I mean, that took
yeah,
guts for the Emperor to invite him and took guts for him to go.
but I thought that was such a cool story, and what a way to wrestle, because you got to be really a master of your craft like your father was to get the end result, whether if you win and they all stand up and clap, or they boo
Yeah,
you.
they were. It's funny when they first come to the ring, they throw streamers, and I mean, it looks like I don't know, some sort of
Like Mardi
party
Gras or
just went
something.
on. Yeah, yeah, Marty. There you go. It just happened in the ring, and then the women in the formal kimono dress were come up and present them with these big, huge bouquets of flowers that any woman in America would, tack on another 5 years with her husband if they got this bouquet of flowers. And and so Dad, they presented the flowers, and Dad would thank them, and he'd hand them to somebody, and the streamers are flying and whatever, and then the match starts, and it's dead silent the whole time,
Yeah, that's just crazy to me.
except when huge things happen, like Dad would suplex Bubba, and the clock, oh, that's all they'd say. It wasn't much of screaming and yelling, just oh, and So yeah, there were very interesting people in that. They're very quiet and reserved as an audience, but they love the violence and the blood.
Oh yeah, yeah.
One
I
of the
think that.
greatest matches that ever happened in Japan was Dad and Abby.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I guess they were introduced to each other in the ring, but that was the only time they were in the ring. Um, and they went out toward the front, and they're wrestling through the crowd, and the crowd's spreading, and they got, Abby's got his fork out, hitting my dad, forking my dad, and Dad's hitting him with chairs and whatever. And they ended up going out of the arena into the lobby and out into the streets of Japan.
Yes, I've heard about this one.
Out onto the sidewalk and into the street. So now you've got, I mean, if you're in Japan at any given time, if you're standing on a street corner, you can see 100,000 people looking left and right. It's
Yeah.
that populated. So you can imagine this 5 foot whatever Abby is, 300-pound black guy with a sheet thing on, going rolling out onto the sidewalk with my dad chasing him. And they went into the street, stopped traffic, stopped, everybody walking down the sidewalk, stopped, probably had, and the people were trying to get out of the auditorium or out of the arena to
To
get
watch
out
it.
there and watch the match because they paid
Yeah.
for it.
Right.
And so now you've got probably, say, I don't know, 50, 60, 70,000 people looking out office windows and driving by in cabs and stopping. And Dad and Abby just going at it in the middle of the street in Tokyo, Japan.
I
And
bet
then
you're
the
right.
cops came, and it took, I don't know, 20 of them, 10 to separate each one of the guys. And they took them to the police station, and Bubba stepped in. And if Bubba had not stepped in, Dad and Abby were scheduled to be deported from Japan,
Ooh.
and they were not allowed ever to come back to Japan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bubba called a few people in the government and said, "Do you know how much money these two guys make when they come over here for this country?" So that, that went by the way. But yeah, at first they were not only going to be kicked out of the country, and my mom and I are like, "So if Dad gets kicked out, do we have to leave too?"
Well, as soon as you said that, I was thinking in my head, man, the they must have sold so many more tickets for the next show because
Oh, good
they
God. Yeah.
broadcasted it to everyone, so everyone knew what was going to happen, or what could happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's smart on their part.
Oh, yeah, they were no, they were brilliant promoters, and when you have 180 million people or 145, whatever, million people compressed into the size of California and most of its mountains. I mean, Japan is an island,
Right.
so if you can have that type of a captivative audience in such a small area, you can do a lot of things because one town to the next doesn't take but one person speaking to the other
Right.
much faster than the internet or anything else does anything. I mean, you get people talking around these towns in Japan, and all of a sudden we're wrestling in these little towns of Japan you've never heard of, and you're like, Jesus, where are we?
That,
But Japan was I would agree, that was my dad's favorite place to wrestle. Well, and they proclaimed him a god, that didn't help.
I mean, it always helps, It's
Well, when he won the seventh world title from Flair at the Keel in June 10th of 1983, within the next days, there was a picture taken by Bill Apter of uh, me, a little boy, hugging my dad as he gets back to the dressing room after all the ceremony and stuff in the ring. And he's walking in the dressing room, and I was standing there, and he hugged me, and you could tell I was crying and whatever. And that photo within the next couple of days was on the front page of the Tokyo newspaper, which had a circulation at the time of 22 million people. And it wasn't on the front page of the sports page, it was on the front page of the newspaper, that photo, and written
wow.
above it, Harley Race, 7-time world champion, not human but God.
So
And
you're famous in Japan too, then.
yeah, I guess.
Let me ask you, did you ever thought about getting into the business?
No, when my dad started the traveling champion was about when decisions about my future would be made. I'm 11, 12, 13, 14, well, one of those ages where where are we going to, where are we going to be playing football? I played football, I wrestled, I was a competition water skier, I did a lot of things myself, but I got to the age where I need to concentrate on my own things rather than following my dad around the earth.
Yeah. My kids
And
did the same thing.
so there was a decision, that picture right there. And I remember that everyone thinks that woman back there was like mad or something. She was crying. It was
Uh,
an emotional moment. And I've received emails from these two people. I'm the guy that was standing right behind that picture.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. It's like, really? Wow, cool. What's your name? Oh, yeah, I mean, I didn't, he was an usher.
Yeah,
Um, that I love that picture.
yeah, it's definitely a cool moment in time.
Yeah.
I have a quick question
Well,
for you that goes way back.
they captured a moment that Dad had been the six-time champion for quite a while, and Ty and Luthez, and so many times he came, a beaten the champion, whether it was Dusty or Flair or whatever, for his seventh world title. But that night was a culmination. Yes, my father was, he was the business, he was the man or whatever, but it's still a family effort,
Oh yeah,
especially when there's only three of you, mom, dad, and me.
yeah,
So, things are talked about at our house that maybe things weren't talked about at other people's homes. Like, your father's going to become world champion or we're traveling a lot again. So I'm going to go to the school and talk to your teachers and whatever, things like that. Just little things that you wouldn't even think of
yeah.
as a fan. It's like, oh, he's got his little kid with him. Cool. They don't think about all the homework my teachers had to prepare for me so that my mom could be my tutor while I was gone for a month from school.
Yeah.
There's these little things that that people don't think about, that all of it coming together like it did was quite special.
Well,
He was getting
you're
multiple
the same
education
way.
streams.
You had a crash. What was your question, man?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nate.
Nick?
No, I just said he was getting multiple education streams.
Well, oh yeah. I mean, when my parents went to the school and talked to the principal and my teachers, whatever, and said we're going to take Justin out of school for a month to go to Australia or Japan or whatever, and the teacher would be like, "Take him. He'll learn more there than he will here."
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, did that, or was the principal knowing the stories of Harley as a kid? He's like, take him, don't hit me.
God, no one's ever asked me that. You have an original, my friend. I thought I'd been asked everything on Earth 5 times, but that's an original.
See,
Did your dad
I
ever
think.
talk about when he tried to save that kid's life when he was 24?
Oh, you mean in the car wreck?
Mhm.
Are you talking about the kid with the upside down Corvette?
When he pushed the car and pulled the kid out.
Yeah, well, yeah, he pulled the kid out, but the head rolled off.
Mhm.
And
oh,
so when Dad went around to grab him, like under the arms to pull him out of the car, Dad, first of all, flipped the Corvette over.
Yeah, he pushed it
And then
over.
he went underneath his arms here to pull him out of the car. And when he went underneath to pull his arms out, the guy's head rolled off. And
oh my
so all
God.
the blood and all that crap from the interior of the body got squirted all over Dad's face.
Oh my Lord.
That's got to be
There
a
was
bad
no,
lasting impression.
yeah, there was no saving him a life there. That was removing a body from a car so it didn't burn because the
Oh
head
my.
was already out of the car.
Uh, wow.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's had a weird life.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
Well,
even
So,
more weird. Your
I
dad
mean,
admitted.
Jesus. I mean, okay, I'll tell you guys how my dad's weirdness, like, so in 1975, they bought a house down at the Lake of the Ozarks. It's a big lake in the central Missouri, and we bought a house down there. And so I'm 5, 6 years old. Oh, what do I want to do? I want to learn how to fish. Dad, teach me how to fish. Okay, so we buy the bass boat, we buy all the equipment, and we go fishing. And I get him up. He just got home from Japan 2 hours ago, and I'm getting him up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's go fishing. And all right, God damn it. And so we get up and we go fishing. Well, we didn't catch anything for enough days that my mom started to punk us by having bacon and sausage ready with scrambled eggs when we got home because she knew
Oh.
we weren't bringing any fish home. So this one afternoon, Dad leaves and he goes to his little hardware store he has down in this little town in the middle of Nowheresville, Missouri, and he's got a guy that sells him stuff out the back of the hardware store, chloridane and weed killers and bug killers and whatever, just anything he wanted because he was Dad. And also fireworks, lots of them, lots of illegal fireworks, but he sold them at the back to Dad. So we get it. So this one morning we get in and I'm grabbing the fishing gear. I put it all in there and take off, and a bass boat with big, huge engine on it, go flying through the water 70 mile an hour. And we get in this cove and whatever. And I reach down, I get back. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm getting our rods ready. We're not fishing like that today.
Oh.
He opens up this grocery bag, paper grocery bag, and he reaches in, he pulls out, he's got third sticks of dynamite duct taped to rocks. So he said, I'm gonna light this thing, I'm gonna throw it. When I tell you to hit it, get the hell out of here.
Oh my God.
Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, okay, and so he lights it and he throws it in. And he says, hit it. And I threw the throttle to the stop and off we went. And I'm just holding on for dear life. I have no idea what's going on. And finally he says, are you going to stop or are you going to drive us back to Kansas City? And I was like, oh, all right. So we slowed down. He's like, go back to that cove. So we drove back there. Of course, there's fish floating everywhere. He told me they weren't dead. They were just knocked out from the concussion of the underwater explosion. So I'm looking at all these fish, 10, 15 fish floating around on the surface. And he said, hey, I turned around. He's got a net in his hand. And he's holding me a net. He said, are you going to fish or are you going to sit there?
That's a nice way to fish.
Well, all I had to do was scoop him up with a net and throw him in the live well.
Now, did any neighbors call on him? you know,
Yeah, but they didn't. No one cared. I mean, when that was one thing nice, and that picture right there kind of really emphasizes this point. When we went to our lake house, we had a phone there. I think we knew the phone number, but I'm not sure. If it rang, no one was going to answer it. That was our retreat. That was where we went to be away from everything. There was no wrestling. There was no fans. Well, I mean, you drive around the lake, of course, there's fans, but in '75, by the time it was 1980, whatever, the people in the arenas and whatever had learned that Dad came here to relax. Don't bother him. So we pull up to the boat dock, and it was, hi, Mr. Race, how to get gas for the boat or whatever. Hi, Mr. Race, how you doing? I said, yeah. And occasionally there'd be a tourist, or, oh, that's Harley Race, and he'd run over and get an autograph or something. But as far as the locals and whatever, they just left us alone and left us at peace. And that was probably my greatest memories with my dad, my mom, and I, was just being on the lake. Well, look at the picture, you can tell. I'm
right.
like 3, 4 years old driving the boat. Dad's got his watchful eye on with what is that, a Schlitz or a Blatz or something?
Yeah, it looks like Schlitz.
Yeah.
That red label.
Well, everyone always asks me, what kind of beer did Dad like when, he was wrestling or whatever. I said the kind that was yellow with a little foam on top.
Heard that.
Bobby can drink beer piss warm. I can't do that. Mine's at least got to be cold. Don't really matter what, as long as it's cold.
Oh my God. The first time I went to Europe, I got there after my dad and mom, and I almost got kicked out of London in the first 3 hours I was there twice. the first thing I did was walk into a pub because I was meeting someone, by Big Ben at 4 o'clock or whatever. And I set my bag down. I walked to the bar. Everyone went crazy. You got, because that was the IRA time. You can't leave your bag unattended.
You're
And
right.
I'm sorry. So then the guy serves me a pint. I take a sip and spit it all out over him because it's warm. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
The bartender just like gets beer spit all over him. It's like, okay, I don't think I'm welcome in Britain anymore.
Nope. So,
Hey, hold on 1 second.
yeah.
Sorry.
This is the one I'm
Only
posting tomorrow.
the only warm beer that I drink is Stag, though.
Yeah,
That's because that's
horrible.
steak, taters, and gravy. And steak, taters, and gravy is supposed to be served warm.
Ugh. I can't do it, man. I hate the smell of Stag. I hate the taste of Stag. I don't know
Lightweight.
how.
This
Pabst is
match
pretty
right here,
comparable, but I haven't tried it warm yet.
I don't drink beer, never have, so I can't add your guys' conversation.
About tequila.
Yeah, I've been to Mexico a few times.
You can drink that warm. I always drink that
You
room
can.
temperature.
You can, and going to the donkey shows in Tijuana, that is warm.
I hear the banana shows are where it's at.
Yeah, went to one of those. Only went to one of each because it was nasty. We won't get into that on
What a lightweight.
their YouTube content. That's one of those things we talked about in the locker room.
And talk about all
I
Nate's banana
titled this
shows that he
one the
was
beauty
starring.
match because it's gorgeous Gary Young and handsome Harley Race.
Sorry.
This one gets aired tomorrow morning.
You all right?
Hey, guys. Oh yeah, someone was pounding on my door. I was like, what the hell?
Not a problem. We were just watching the match with your dad in there.
Which one's this?
This one is gorgeous Gary Young
Oh
and
yeah.
handsome Harley.
Yeah, this was from
This one
Wrestling
I'm
as
airing.
a Chase.
Yep, I'm airing
Hey,
this
how'd
one
you get
tomorrow
the
morning at
Indian?
8:30.
Looked like he almost got him in the Indian Deathlock.
When you say tomorrow, do you mean Tuesday or Friday?
Tuesday. Sorry. Tuesday morning.
So when this
Yeah, so
airs, it'll be 2 days ago.
You're
Yeah.
right. So the reason why we had you on is because your dad's getting honored this, technically next month. Well, this month,
Mhm.
by the time this airs, because we air on Thursdays. So, Cauliflower Alley Club, we go there every year. You've been there the last few years as well. But August 18th through the 20th is the reunion. And we plug the CACs all the time here because it's a wonderful organization. And you were telling us that your dad actually had something to do with the actual president, B. Brian Blair, being the president right now.
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, it was, they had the board and they had the president and they had whatever, but they listened to my dad
Right.
because they knew that he knew what was going on. Yeah. I guess it's like employees talking when the boss isn't around. And so he had the ear of the locker, the dressing room,
Yeah.
and he commanded the dressing room, and he told he told basically every match how they were going to finish. All right, you two, come over here. Let me show you them. All right, you two, come over here. Let me show you. Yeah, you four, come over here. He just the whole time he's just barking orders in the background in the dressing room, telling people how they're going to conduct their match.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually heard stories about, a wrestler coming up, like a wrestler will see your dad coming in the locker room and your dad will go up to him and say, "Hey, let me show you this move." And by time that, he hit everyone with a different move, they were like, no, Harley, it's okay. You don't have to show us the movie.
What was the funny thing was the guys that say all that, then they'd look over to whoever it was that my dad was working with that night, and they'd grin and say, "Good luck, buddy."
Yeah, good luck. But so your dad,
Well, you
You're
know
about to
what?
feel all of
Actually, one of their probably biggest statements that I heard in like group unison when someone would leave the dressing room that was wrestling my dad, because dad always, came out second. Listen to him.
you're right.
Listen to him.
If you don't, it's going to be the hard way.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did this to Brody. He did this to many guys. He headlock him, arm bar him, or something. Put his head down to their ear where they could hear. Don't piss me off. And that usually got the match back in how it was supposed to be going. But yeah,
Right.
don't piss me
So your dad was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. He was inducted into the NWA Hall of Fame. Actually, he's been inducted in quite a few Hall of Fames. But
He's the
this year,
only.
go
He's
ahead.
the only. He's one of 5 men that have been inducted into the 6 major wrestling Hall of Fames.
Yeah.
And he's
Nice.
also one of 2. I think Sherman did it, Cody Rhodes did it, and my dad, who was NWA champion and King of the Ring.
Oh, I did not know that.
That's only Cody Rhodes, my dad, and Sher,
And read that on the Sportster, huh?
Sherman. Sherlock. What's that?
Yeah, I didn't
I
read
said
that on
Jim
the
didn't read that
Sportster.
on the Sportster.
Uh, well, when
It was a
when
dig
you're
at
at
that.
home, when you're at home and this is I don't know anything else. I mean, you know how weird it would have been if my dad was at home for dinner at 6 o'clock in the evening?
Yeah.
That would have been weird. My dad bleeding all over the place and us eating at 1 o'clock in the morning at some Chinese restaurant that's still having that's normal.
Right.
Have your father look like he just went through the windshield of a car, blood flowing all down his face and whatever. And you remember Rufus R. Jones, right?
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, one night, Rufus went to kick him, and I don't know what happened, but he ended up kicking him right in the side of the nose, and he crushed the whole side of his nose, his cheek, and everything else, just crushed and flattened it.
Oh my.
And, of course, blood's running everywhere. So they finished the match, and Dad comes back in the dressing room. He's looking at himself in the mirror, and half his face is flat. And he's like, that goddamn Rufus can't aim better than that. And he looks right, hand me that pencil. So I gave him the pencil. He rammed the pencil up his nose and cracked
Oh
everything
my
back out.
God.
Just cracked it all back out. Pulled the pencil down. He looks over at me. Is that straight? I looked at him like, yeah, I guess. All right, taking the shower.
Well, there's another.
Some years later, Dynamite Kid, something similar happened to him. He got kicked in the side of the face and crushed his nose. You get back in the locker room, and Dad's looking at him. He's kind of woozy, Dad, look, you want me to help you fix that? And Tommy, he wasn't even coherent enough. He just kind of nodded like yes. Dad said, "Hand me that pencil."
Well, a very famous story just came out about your dad too. It was being talked about on the Undertaker's podcast, where he told the story that your dad was in the locker room when he come hobbling in because the night before the Undertaker got hurt on his leg and it was giving him trouble, and he had been previously fixed by Harley. And so when your dad asked him if he needed him to fix him, he was like, "No, it's okay. I'll be good for
I already
tonight."
went to the chiropractor.
Yeah.
And Dad said, "Not the way I'm going to adjust you."
Right.
And Mark said, "Well, you don't tell Harley no twice."
Right.
So he laid down and he moving his foot around. I'm telling it as if I'm Mark. Mark telling the
Right.
story. Undertaker. And wiggling his foot out. Relax, kid. Mark said, "You relax. Harley Race didn't have you by the foot."
Right?
And he turned around and popped it out. It sounded like a gunshot going off, but he popped his hip back into place. He was able to work that night.
Right.
That
I
was the
just,
wrestler's chiropractor.
yeah. I just think it's funny. It's like, no, it's okay. I'll go ahead and like limp through this match. Don't you worry. You know.
And
But
Dad told him he was going to adjust it. You don't tell Harley no twice.
right. So your dad's getting the 2025. I'm probably going to butcher this word. Posthumous
Posthumous.
Posthumous.
award,
Mhm.
and I think it's very cool because I'm just going to read what the CAC wrote about it. Harley Race, of course, is going to be honored with this award. It's a legacy for individuals who made a profound impact on professional wrestling. And your dad is still making an impact because, like, CM Punk, which I never knew was a Harley guy until last year.
Oh, yeah.
CM Punk was there. Of course, he's had the who's who like Haku and Bob Orton Jr. go through. But professional wrestling, this is the prestigious award presented to a well recognized wrestler, manager, referee, or promoter, which basically your dad has done all that. Booker, announcer, or industry officiated whose contributions help shape the sport. Which, I mean, your dad helped shape this sport. It was kind of funny because I read a story about Luthez not liking your dad's era and your dad's era not liking the older sport, but it was like your dad was a transition to almost what we got today. It's like the lineage. You got Luthez,
Well,
your dad,
that's one
you
of
got
the that's
Flair.
one of the other reasons that he's so um, respected amongst even the newer talent now is he bridged about 3 generations of wrestling, maybe 4,
Right.
starting from that old belt, the first title belt he wore in '73, that was the Fez belt. Um, and wrestling, Bruno and those guys back then, and taking those guys, the Luthez and the Brunos, into the Harley Race Ric Flair type era. And then he took the Harley Race Ric Flair era and turned it into the Ric Flair and Haku era. So he
Right.
brought so many guys up to basically put himself out of business. How much he cared for the guys and the fans. I mean, if you're going to tell Ric Flair, hey, I want you to take this title from me, I want you to hit me in the head 700 times and body slam me 15, and then cover me and pin me and take this belt from me, that is a very unselfish human being.
Oh yeah.
That
That
was
is a
one of the things
human
that, like, I heard that story. It gave me so much respect for Harley was when Vince McMahon was paying people to no show their, like, he'd give them a contract and then try to give you a bonus to no show. And he's like, absolutely not. And he
Sure.
went
that
and
night,
dropped it to Flair.
the night that he, Bobby, the night that happened, my mom, dad, and Linda McMahon, who's our Secretary of Education right now, and Vince and Linda took my mom and dad out to eat and to discuss this whole thing, and he offered him $250,000 to not show up at Starcade
Yeah.
and to come to
Very first start
WWE.
kid.
And my 83, and dad said, "My word is who I am." And through a long dinner conversation, it kind of came up to where I'm not going anywhere. You can offer me any amount of money, but I don't go against my word. My word is, I told him I'd be there to wrestle Flair in Starcade, and then Vince didn't know, but Dad knew to pass the torch. So they got up and they went into the restroom at, I think it was Tavern on the Green or one of those real fancy restaurants in New York, and they were like they were at the sink looking at each other in the mirror, and Vince said, "You're not going to do it, are you?" And my dad said, "Vince, you see that face right there? I got to look at that face tomorrow. And I do not go back in my word. So Vince tried to shoot on him, and Dad headlocked him, put him to sleep in the parking lot.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, he woke him back, and he slapped him, woke him back up, or whatever. But yeah, Vince got so pissed off, he actually shot on his legs. It's like, the hell are you doing? Vince fixed him up. It's like,
But
you might pick different people to shoot on.
right? But that's probably why he respected your dad when he went up there to actually work for him, because he knew his word was his bond.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
kind of
and
missing
Vince,
in this day and age.
right during Hulkamania and all that, Vince and Hogan, they called Dad the boss. And when he then he became king, they called him the king.
Right?
And that was one thing when Dad finally decided to go up to WWF at the time. When they were talking about the angle and all, Dad told him, he said, I don't want any more titles. I've had enough belts. I've got enough titles. I've got enough this. I've got enough that. Um, I don't want Hogan's. Let him go. But I'm going to be out and be remembered. And so they came up with the King concept. Well, Vince thought it was a gimmick, and it was originally supposed to be a gimmick. But then when Dad became the king of the ring and the king of wrestling, and all the older guys and even some of the younger guys were like, yeah, he really is. And so to this day, all the other uh, people that have won the King of the Ring tournament, Haku, Savage won it, they after they got beat, they weren't referred to as the king anymore. Dad is still referred to as the king.
That's
It's
true.
like
I mean,
it's like Arnold Palmer is in golf or um uh
even his current wrestling figures, he's still the king. It's still.
I've got one of those over there. Yeah, I got a bunch of dolls and stuff of Dad. But yeah, it stopped. So Dad knew what he was doing. And basically, he pulled one over on Vince.
Yeah.
Vince thought, oh yeah, you come up here and be a king gimmick. You can be King Harley, Vince, and he's just thinking about money, whatever. My dad's thinking about legacy.
Yeah. Do you
So
have?
oh God, is that when Duggan and him were backstage?
Yep, and that's the
Jim
chicken in
Duggan?
his hand that he killed on
Oh my
Jim's
God,
forehead.
that is the funniest moment of wrestling. My dad hitting Jim Duggan with a live chicken.
Oh my God.
I mean, not hitting
Killed
him,
the
beating the
chicken,
hell out of him
and
with
the head fell off.
yeah.
The head got ripped off. Your
I,
dad was the only one to kill an
oh,
animal in a
please,
wrestling match
kill an
on
How
animal.
TV.
pissed did Peter get?
Yeah. Oh
Definitely
God.
wouldn't fly nowadays.
Well, Jim and I mean, I talked to him a lot, and he and I were talking we talked about this all the time. And I just can never get over. I mean, that between Dad hitting him with the chicken and Brody coming out with the mop and hitting my dad over the head with the mop handle, and everyone going, "What did he go to the janitor's closet to get it? Where the hell did he get the mop?" I mean, there was some funny. When I was a little kid and watching this happen, I was scared to death. But now I look back on it, I'm like, Dad's beating the hell out of a guy with a live chicken.
I had to
A big
surprise you with
guy.
that. I didn't tell them I was gonna
Oh,
put
that's
this up
awesome.
about the chicken.
That's awesome. That was
Do
quite.
you?
I mean, it took them about 3 days to film that.
Oh my goodness.
Between all the things that they wrecked and getting into the electrical box of the stadium and trying to throw each other into electricity. I mean, they weren't going to. I mean, to just to make all that happen, it took 3 days to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you can just start a fight in the back of the dressing room and fight it out if you want to, but if you want to live and you're fighting my father, well, it better be a spot for the show. You just don't
Right.
walk up and slap him and pick a fight with him because that's bad.
How
Do you
many
have
chickens did they go through?
How many
how
what?
many?
How many
How many
chicken
chickens did they
sizzles?
go through?
I don't know, I had about 8 or 10 sandwiches.
Oh my goodness. Do you have any
That's a good
mementos of
chicken
your
sandwich.
father?
Fresh.
What's that?
Do you have any mementos of your father? Do you have any of his belts or any of his?
I have
Uh,
personal things. I have, things that just mean, stuff with him and I. In fact, at the Fan Fest in St. Louis in May, a gentleman named Dan Geyer walked up to me and he handed me this.
is that a Bible?
Yeah. Can you see what it says?
Early old race. God bless you.
He said, he handed me this. He said, many years ago, your father gave me this. And he said, if anything ever happens to me, make sure this gets where it needs to be. And so just out of nowhere, I'm at FanFest signing autographs. This guy, Dan Geyer, walks up and he hands this and he tells me the story and hands this Bible to me. That's the most important thing I have.
I bet.
That is all.
Uh,
That's kind of a shift going from killing chicken to the Bible. That's pretty good shift there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I have, tokens and this, and I have my grandfather's pocket knife, which my dad carried, and things like that.
yeah,
Rope, belts, let the fans have them. You put them in the museum, let them enjoy it. I don't need. What do I want a NWA belt sitting in my room collecting dust when it can be sitting in a museum where people can enjoy it?
that's true. Me and Bobby were just at Iowa's Waterloo, Iowa, for their Lou Thez Hall of Fame,
I know.
and
I wanted to go up there. I couldn't make
they,
it.
they had one of your father's boots bronzed
Mhm.
sitting on the shelf. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, well, I was with Dad when he was inducted into that Hall of Fame when it was in Newton. It was moved to Waterloo. It used to be in Newton, Iowa.
Okay,
And Dad was inducted with Danny Hodge and Dan Gable in one of the first class, in other words.
makes sense.
And I'll never. It was a small room, and there were so many people in there. It was so hot, and Dad, he never complains. But he turned over. He looked at Dan. He said, "We don't end this goddamn ceremony pretty soon. I'm just leaving because I can't stand here anymore." I just sweat. Just I
Oh
just
my
those
God.
little things that you remember. That's like weird. I just remember looking at my dad. Like, is he okay? And just, but there was like 100 people in a real small room. I mean, that's why they moved the Hall of Fame to bigger brick
Yeah,
and mortar. But they
yeah,
had the Hall of Fame kind of like stuck back in the corner of this area, and it's like all these people. But yeah, it was cool. That was the first time I actually got to meet Dan Gable and Danny Hodge.
that's awesome because those
Yeah.
are some very well respected, just like your father, people in this profession.
Well, Dad and Danny Hodge are the only two people I've ever seen that could take a stainless steel pair of pliers and bend the handles together.
Oh my God.
And your dad did it without the extra ligaments in his hand.
He just farm boy tough.
Yep, yep.
Well,
Don't
I
make
hear
that
Bobby can do that,
know
but only with one hand.
that. Well, they show pictures a lot of Danny Hodge like crushing apples with his hands, or my dad
Yeah.
bending bottle caps between his fingers, and
That's crazy. That's some strongman shit right there. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, listen, it was an honor to have you on.
Oh, well, thank
Normally
you very
we
much.
only normally we only go about an hour long, but we've kind of taken you to an hour and a half. Uh,
Hey, it's all right. It's for my dad. I mean, the man did so much for so many people. I mean, me as the first one, but
oh, definitely.
for so many other people. And I think probably some of my fondest memories, though, when I was a child, when I was a kid, was around Christmas time. We went to Children's Mercy Hospital here in Kansas City, and Dad would hand out presents to the kids.
Oh wow.
And they knew who he was. Basically, these poor kids that had leukemia. They just love getting gifts from this big burly guy. Big deep voice.
Yeah.
Ho ho ho. And that was probably my favorite times, or was when we did things like that, because you got to see who he was. And there were times, in fact, um, when he was with a really sick child, whatever, that he had to leave the room because he didn't want to cry in front of the child.
Yeah. Man.
He had a big old heart.
That's a side that we don't hear too much about. So thank you.
Yeah. And then he also, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:15. I got school at 8. Justin Race, come to the principal's office. I'm like, oh, I don't think I did anything. If I did I get caught? I get to the office, my dad's standing there. You have a doctor appointment. And he winked. You? Okay. So he'd sign me out of school and we went fishing.
That's awesome.
He wasn't in town that much, so when he was in town, he was going to spend all this time with his little boy. So we went fishing. The hell of a school.
That's great. Well, definitely everyone who's watching this, at home, if you want to be part of the CACs, everyone can go there. You just got to go to the CAC website, become a member. It's a great organization that gives back to wrestlers in need. We talk about all the time that back in your dad's days, there was no 401k, there was no set your money aside unless you knew your finances.
Hell, they didn't even have turnbuckles. They wrestled in boxing rings half the time.
And I've done that.
That was 2 pieces of rope coming together at a metal strap.
I've taken some bumps in some boxing rings, and that's just horrible. But definitely, it happens once a year, always in August. Like I said, this year's, I think it's the 18th through the 20th or the 21st, one of those. 21st.
18th through the 20th. Yeah, you're right. 18th through 20th.
So it's happened. It always happens in Vegas here the last few years. I know it used to happen in New York and other places, but the last few years it's always been in Vegas, which is kind of cool because it's on the older strip, so you get the walk that 6 blocks of everything can happen in those 6 blocks.
You can see everything in one trip down that 6 blocks.
Right. So even if you don't want to spend your whole time listening to wrestlers, which that's my favorite thing, or walking through the history, because they always have a room full of historic pictures and different things that you can go look at and read, and then they do the meet and greets. So if you're a wrestling fan, you get that, but then you also have the part that's just Vegas. Sorry. That you can go and explore too. So it's a great couple of days to get out and spend time with the wrestling family, as we call it.
Yeah.
But,
the CAC has done a lot of good things for a lot of guys that deserve it.
Yes, definitely.
Like you were saying, there's no 401k, there's no health insurance, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
You get hurt, you pay for it yourself.
And unfortunately, wrestlers don't really, they shake things off too much, and it doesn't really start to affect them until they get older. And unfortunately, a lot of the legends that we watched growing up have reached that age where they're older now, and it's starting to, aches and pains, which probably have been happening for 30 years, is now to the point where they need to get fixed. So great organization. Go on their website. If you can't make it this year, they sell some shirts and some other things that you will help donate to the CAC. But definitely check it out because it's a great time. Me and Bobby, I think we've been doing this is our 5th, I think, or 4th or 5th year in a row that we're going. But it's always a great time. And this year, last year we got you up on where you were talking about your dad?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
learning
that was
series.
last year.
Yeah.
Last year. Yeah, my mom and I went up and I told some stories and talked about Dad a little bit.
But this year, his
Got
I
dad
that
wish
one,
I wish
Justin.
so much that my father was alive so I could shove that picture in his face. I would love
You
to
were
get.
talking about
I
moving
just want
Japan,
to,
weren't you?
as a son, just talking to your dad, just hold that picture up and go, "What the hell were you thinking? You
uh,
look like a,
That-
you look like a Three Musketeer slash clown for a carnival."
it's true. Now, you talked about a book. Is it already out, or can
Oh no,
people already?
I'm trying to get the manuscript finished before CAC. So it'll be taken to the editor and producers.
That is
But
awesome.
yeah, the name of my book is Don't Tell Your Mother, and that's exactly why it's named that. All the little things like when he pulled me out of school and we went fishing all day, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Of course, this no cell phones, whatever. He'd stop by a gas station. Hey, phone. I'll pick Justin up from school. Okay. So we drive home. We get home about 4:30. How was school? Great. Been fishing with my dad all day.
That's awesome.
Don't tell your mother.
Well, definitely when that book
So we
comes
need to
out,
pencil you in then to be back on the show after the book comes out.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
what I'm thinking.
I'd love to. I'd appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah. So just hit us up, or we'll. I'm sure we'll hear too that the book is coming out, and then I'll hit you
Yeah,
up
it'll
and
be a
try to
big
get you back
release.
on.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Once
So
it,
we'll get an
once
update at
it's
CAC.
yeah. That's why I'm. I haven't done much but anything but writing here lately because I'm trying to get that manuscript done before CAC, so at least it's to the editors and the publishers.
that's nice. I can't wait to read it. I'm a big reader. I've got so
Yeah.
many books.
Well,
You know,
it's yeah, everyone they tell the life story of the person or they tell how their life story, whatever. I just have hundreds of stories of my dad and I doing things, and we uh, questionable legality or whatever, and don't tell your mother. Okay. And now I do podcasts like with y'all, and I'll tell a story, and I'll talk to my mom, and she'll say, "You guys did what?"
oh,
And I'm like, "Well, he didn't say tell you when you're 35. He said don't tell you, so I never told you."
smart. Good
Now,
Yeah, mom's learning a little bit at 82.
now, are you going to do an audiobook? Because people like Nate can't read.
Yes, I will. In fact, I would like to do an audiobook because I'd actually like to. I mean, you can say deep, gruff. Yeah, there's how many adjectives to describe a deep voice like my father's had.
right,
But if I
right.
did an audiobook and could actually, Justin, come here, and
Yeah, that
actually
gets it
use my
across a
father's,
little bit more.
yeah, yeah, Justin, come here. I'm like, oh shit, now what did I do?
Is it gonna have pictures so it'll help me?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'll probably put 30 or more pictures in there.
Oh, that sounds like it's going to be a good book. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, that, like I said, I mean, with the passing of of Terry, and there's all those books out there, and they're about the wrestler husband cheated on the wife, and there's all this negative stuff, or then there's some positive stuff and whatever. But I just thought, I mean, I had a lot of fun with my dad. Let's write a fun book.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I
Because
mean,
if I can get people to chuckle, then I did my job.
yeah. I mean, just telling the story about your dad taking you to the hospital and giving out gifts. I mean, that's a side that I've never heard before. So,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's amazing. All right, Justin, I think
Yeah.
we're going to wrap it up.
All
I
right, guys.
appreciate you so much for coming on. I know got busy over the last couple of weeks, but we got you on, and I think it's been an amazing podcast. And we'll
Well, I
definitely,
thank you, Tex. You guys are great. Um, I appreciate so much that you're making the effort to go out there and take old school wrestling and bring it back in. I think that the fans are hungry for another product.
yes.
In fact, it's not an other product. It's a product that was made a long time ago.
Yeah,
It just got forgotten a bit.
totally agree with you.
But these kids. I mean, my thing is, I guess the first thing that really turned me off to anything nowadays was before the match even starts. There's a 10-foot ladder in the middle of the ring. What in the name of God does that have to do with wrestling? Now, if Abby wants to pull a fork out of his belt and stab my dad in the head with a fork, fine. But you don't have a 10-foot ladder in the ring.
But that still made sense because it fit to who Abby was. It wasn't just a random ass ladder.
Yeah. Well, I don't know Abby climbing a ladder. I can't even imagine that. He's the nicest guy though. He's so much fun.
Oh
He
yeah,
We've
we,
met him a few times
every
at Fan
time
Fest. He was a very nice guy.
every time I see Abby, he insists that I tell everyone who will listen the story about him and my dad wrestling into the streets in Japan. I mean,
hey, I would.
Justin, come here, tell that story, Justin, come here, tell that story. Well, all right.
Well, we appreciate having you on, sir,
I really
and
appreciate it, guys. You guys have a
can't
good
wait to meet up with you again at CAC's here in a couple
we'll see
weeks.
you in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
See you in a couple
and
weeks.
then we'll
Talk
definitely
later.
have you back on so you can plug your book.
That'd be great. You guys,
All
I
right.
really appreciate it. And all you out there, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, gentlemen. Like always, we end it with we're not going to do anything with toys there, Nick. We're just going to, if you guys like what you see here, please like, subscribe, and comment. You know, it's what helps us in the algorithm to keep on there. So definitely, and if there's any other guys that you would like us to interview, if we have the opportunity, we'll reach out and see if we can't get them on. But thank you for subscribing, and we'll see you next time at the wrestling shows. All right, thank you,
Good seeing you
Justin.
again, Justin.
See you guys later.
Take it easy, guys.
Yeah.
CAC's couple of weeks.